Novel Audio presents A Dire Isle by R.V. Raman. Performed by Neil Shah. Chapter 1. The inflatable rubber dinghy careened down the river Betwa, carrying its 5 occupants inexorably towards the rocks and the forbidding white water beyond. The 2 boatmen at the rear deftly steered it toward the gap in the rocks, as the 2 other men sitting in front of them held their oars clear of the cold water. The 5th occupant, a bright-eyed girl of 16, sat at the bow of the raft, mesmerized by the approaching drop in the river. All 5 pairs of eyes were riveted to the abrupt descent and the roiling waters beyond. "Hang on!" Athreya called as his right hand let go of the oar and clenched the taut nylon rope under his legs. To Harith Athreya's left sat his friend and host, Harith Sikka. Harith was a native of Bundelkhand, which Athreya was visiting again after many years. Crouching at the bow in front of the men and tightly gripping ropes with both hands was Mopriya, Harith's daughter. The boatmen at the rear of the raft watched the swirling waters ahead warily, as if expecting them to throw up a nasty surprise at any moment. Presently, the raft tilted forward alarmingly as its bow plunged over the drop and buried itself, and Mopriya, momentarily, into the churning eddies of the Betwa. The girl's squeal of excitement turned into a gasp and ended in a splutter as a mass of frigid water drenched her from head to toe. It would leave the raft with at least 6 inches of standing water. "Hold tight, Mo!" her father called. He had reached forward in anticipation and was clutching the collar of her windbreaker. The raft bounced and spun dizzyingly as the rest of it followed the bow over the drop and hit the frothy water. "Row!" called one of the boatmen over the din of the cascading torrent, and 4 oars plunged into the white water as the raft sought to fight its way out of the eddies. Ahead lay a sharp bend in the river, where it also narrowed considerably. The quickening current surged and leapt over rocks as the river narrowed, forcing the men to give their undivided attention to steering the raft. The boatman's primary task was to keep it from crashing onto rocks, seen or unseen. This turbulent stretch was, depending on one's perspective, the most thrilling or the most dangerous part of their rafting adventure. After an interminable length of time, they emerged onto calmer waters beyond the bend of the river. Athreya rested his oar and took a well-deserved breather, letting his tired arms hang limply at his sides. The other 3 men did likewise, allowing the raft to drift down the river. Athreya ran his long fingers through his uncommonly fine hair that was revealing its first specks of grey. Except the silvery tuft in the front, the rest of his head was largely black. His fine-haired beard, too, was mostly black, except at the chin, where a small patch of silver matched the tuft on his head. Sitting there with his hair and beard dripping water, he looked like a bearded collie that had just had a bath. After staring at little other than the raging waters and watching out for submerged rocks, Athreya now lifted his gaze to take in the new vista that greeted him beyond the bend. The river was broader now. The forest on the riverbank to his right was dense, green, and silent. Not a sign of civilization marred the stretch of undisturbed nature. The left side riverbank, however, was not as thick or verdant as the opposite bank. An occasional man-made structure peeped through relatively sparse foliage. Ahead, the river widened and split into 3 arms, creating 2 islets as its outermost arms veered away from each other. The middle arm of the river cut a narrow, rock-strewn channel for the water between the 2 islets. The boatmen quietly steered the raft towards the left side arm that was visibly wider. Not only that, but they were ensuring that the raft drifted as close to the left side bank and as far away from the islets as possible. That was when Athreya noticed that a sudden quietness had fallen over them and their surroundings. Only the whispers of the river around him intruded. The woods on both banks were silent. Even more so were the 2 islets looming ahead. There was a curious stillness about them that caught Athreya's attention, stirring his not inconsiderable imagination. There was something about them that didn't feel quite natural. Several long moments passed in silence as they drifted closer to the islets. Dusk was beginning to fall. The index finger of
Sample complete. Ready to continue?